What's up guys, Learning with Rich here. In this video, I'm gonna show you how to annotate our BIM. So we're going to tag our BIM. Alright, so to do that, I'm gonna change my view to 0 to floor. Just double click that one. And then after that, as you can see, I have several BIMs here. So to place annotation on my BIMs, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to select Annotate tab. And then from the tag panel, you can see here, BIM Annotations. Alright, so just click that one. And then this is now our BIM Annotations dialog box. So as you can see here, we have a placement option here. Okay, so on our placement, all beams in current view is, or current plan view is selected. Okay, so that is where we are going to place our tags. So we're going to place our tags on all the beams on our current plan view. Okay, and then this is how it looks like. So this is our beam, and then this is the location of our tag. So it's somewhere at the middle, top middle. So that is where we are going to place our tag. So we're going to place tags on all beams in current plan view, which is 0 to floor. Okay, so to do that, just select here OK. Alright, so the visibility graphic setting is set to hide the category in the view. Do you want to enable it? So I'm going to enable it by selecting OK, because by default, in my view here on 0 to floor, my structural framing tags are turned off. So once I select here OK, Revit will turn on the visibility of my structural framing tags. Alright, so I'm going to select here OK. And let's wait. And there you go. So as you can see, automatically Revit now plays the annotation on my BIM. So it's at the top middle of my BIMs. Okay, so if you want to edit, so let's say for example here, so I've got here my structural BIM system. So if I click that, it will select all this system. But let's say for example, you want to select your BIM individually, because right now I can't select the beam here, because if I click this one, it will just select the whole structural beam system of this area here. Okay, now if I want to select it individually, you need to select the beam system, and then after that, from the beam system, so there is this remove beam system. Okay, so it removes the beam system and leaves the beams in place. Alright, so the structural framing elements will retain join and attachment parameters such as cutback, offset, and justification. Okay, so it's like you're ungrouping your beam system. And by the way, the reason why your beam here is showing like this, like a single line, it's because of the settings that we have here, the detail level. So currently the detail level here is set to coarse. So if I'm going to select here medium or fine, fine. So this is now how it will look like. There you go. So that's now how it looks like. So let's see what will happen if I change that to medium. All right. So there's a bit of change there. So coarse, single line, medium is like this, and then fine is like this. Okay, so there's a difference on that center line. Anyway, I'm gonna change it back to coarse. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to select the beam system, and then like what I've said, I'm going to remove the beam system, because let's say for example I want to select it individually. So I'm going to select remove beam system. There you go. So as you can see, I can now select the beam individually. Alright, so after we remove the beam system, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to select these beams here. So I'm going to select one beam, and then I want to hold control so I can select multiple beams to the selection. Okay, so now I have selected 3 beams. So what I want to do, I want to modify the annotation. So to do that, I'm going to select annotate. So just remember, these 3 beams are selected. So I go to annotate and then look for beam annotations. So just click that one. And then you will notice here on our beam annotations, all selected beams in current view or current plan view is now selected, right? So a while ago, the one that we have selected by default is all beams in the current plan view because we didn't select any beam. So now that we have selected beams, these 3 beams here, so you will notice all selected beams in current plan view is now selected. So we are modifying the beam annotation of all selected beams in the current plan view. Okay? So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to modify the settings here. So this is the placement settings. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to add an horizontal end offset, like for example 1 inch. So meaning the annotation that I'll be putting will gonna be 1 inch from the start of my beam here. So from here to here, that will gonna be 1 inch. Okay, so that's my horizontal end offset, and then I'll select OK. Now I want to modify as well the top right annotation of my beam. So I want to add an annotation here or tag. So I'm going to select ellipsis button, and then I'm going to select here structural framing tag on my annotation type, and then I'll be using this type here. Okay, and then after that I'll just select OK, and there you go, and then I'll select here OK. Now the next thing that we'll be doing so that the tags will going to be applied, or the modification that we did will be applied on these beams here. I'm going to select first these 3 beams, and then from the instance properties, I'll be looking on the analysis results and reaction live. So I'm going to type here like 10, and then I'll select here apply. So by default, it will go to 10.00 keep. So that's the analysis result for these 3 beams here. Now I'm going to select the tag tool, which is this one, tag by category. So you can type TG. Okay, so let's click this one, and then I do not want to add here a leader. That's why I'm gonna make sure that the leader here is unchecked, and then I'm now going to tag the beam. There you go. So that's now the annotation on the top right of my beam. So I select this one, and then I select here modify. So let us just try to tidy up this, maybe something like this. Okay, I just don't want to have an overlapping annotation here. Just tidy up. There you go. All right. Okay, now the next thing that I'm gonna do here is I want to modify the beam annotation here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to select this type here, this 16 by 32 concrete rectangular beam, and then I'm going to edit the type. So let's click edit type here. Okay, and then I'm going to move the slider down. I'm going to put a type mark here. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna type here 16. Okay, and then I'll select here OK. Right, so that's the type mark. And then I'm going to select 124 by 36 beam here. So I click that, and then I'll go again to the type property. Let's click that one, and then let's move the slider down. Let's look for type mark. So I'm gonna type here 24, and then I'll select here OK. Okay, or maybe I'm going to change the type mark. Instead of 16, I'm gonna type C16. So C16 for that, and then for my 24 by 36, I want to call that, I want the type mark to be C24. So I select the 24 by 36 edit type, and then I'll type here on the type mark C24, and then OK. Now the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm going to modify the family. Okay, I'm going to modify the tag family. So to do that, I'm going to select one of the tag, this one. As you can see, this one and this one, they have the same tag, right? So they have the same tag family. So if I select this one, so it says structural framing tag standard. So if I click this one, it says structural framing tag standard. So they are using the same family. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to select one of the tag, and then I'm going to edit the family. So let's click this one. Okay, so it will now open up the dialog box. Sometimes there's a dialog box that will open up asking if you want to open the family editor. So you just need to select yes so that you will be going here on the structural framing tag family editor. So we are editing now the family. So I'm going to select this annotation here, this label, and then I'm gonna select edit label. So let's click edit label. And then from the edit label, I want to add here the type mark. So let me double click that from the category parameters. Let's look for type mark and double click. So it will now be added here. Now I do not want to include the type name. So I'm going to select the type name column here or type name row. And then I'm going to remove it. Remove parameter. There you go. So I only have here the type mark and then I'll select here OK. Okay. So this is now my tag label standard. Okay, so I think it would be better if I will just create a new type of tag. Okay, so instead of overriding the tag label standard. Okay, so I'm going to undo this. All right. All right, so this is my tag label standard. So I undo the changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this one first. So let's click the tag, edit type, and then let's duplicate this one. So I will call this custom, or let's say family or type mark. So I just put a type mark. So that's the name. Okay, so tag label type mark. So I'll select OK. And then after that, select that, edit label. So let's proceed on changing the label. So let us remove the type name row. Let's click this one, remove. And then let's look for type mark. Select, double click the type mark. That's it. And then I'll select here OK. And there you go. Okay. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to load this into the project. Let's go back to the project that we are working on. So load. And then I'm going to override the existing version and its parameter value. So let's click this one. And there you go. So it's now applied here. So if I'm going to select this one, all right, so that is now my standard structural framing tag. Okay, so it's now applied here. Okay, right. So now the reason why we have here a question mark, okay, it's because the type mark for this is not defined. That's why it's question mark. So if you want, so you can just click that and let's say you can type C25, whatever is that. Yes, there you go. And then you can also apply it here. Okay, because this beam, the type mark there is not defined. That's why it's question mark. So that's the reason why you see the type mark is question mark here, or undefined or blank. So that's the reason why you are looking here on question mark. So let's say I'll change this to let's say C30 or any value, and then I'll select here OK. So the family that we are using is based on the type mark. So any values that you type here on the type mark, that is the one that it will show. There you go. All right. So that's how you play with your tags. Now let's say I want to add here a symbol. Okay, so let's go to annotate, and then let's look for symbol here, and then let's look for beam system symbol. So let's click that, and then let's click the beam system. There you go. And then let's click again to place the beam system symbol. All right. Okay, that's it for this simple exercise. So hopefully you learned something from this video. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.